What a night! Oh, I can't believe it! Let's dance!
Midnight Oil, Red Sails, Sound Roll 2, musical films. And that was the Oils coming off stage.
Beauty, Michael. Yes, very good debut. Fantastic. This is marvellous. We have a meeting in the afternoon. 4 hours later, we're making movies. Oh, there he is. God, right on cue. Almost, but not quite more than we deserve. This is Ray Argyle, Cinema Verite. Mr. Verite. Pretty cold out there now still. Okay, I'll turn off and then go off for a while. Good set Charlotte's right there. Well, the stick settings were like the other day when they didn't change back to the bass after you played the stick. You hear yourself, hear the beat, and play like that, that'll be great, okay? Sometimes you got to take the hardest 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4.
Perhaps it's easy to forget what it was actually like back in the early 80s. That was kind of our generation's fear that we were about to be plunged into a nuclear winter, and there was a lot of sabre rattling going on with Reagan bullishly shirt-fronting a succession of Russian presidents. I don't know who it was, Andropov, Chernenko, whoever it was. So there was a real feeling of brinkmanship, the like of which we hadn't seen since the very early 60s. And of course we found ourselves in Japan, you know, the place where nukes had actually been used, and got to speak to some of the hibakusha, the survivors. And so all of these things added up to, you know, songwriting which could not avoid that issue.
I think the Red Sails period was a real period of experimentation with the band where we really wanted to do something different.
The nuclear build-up and so on and so forth had already started to permeate through into our thinking and my thinking about what we might or might not do and how someone should respond.
This is the joke about the presidential elections, because on top of the dollar, it's got "In God We Trust," you see, so it's better that than Hacko Hillbilly Man from California. I'll say, Casper, let's lob a few on those commies. I think I'll get Cousin Piston Rings to sing a song for us this afternoon. So Robert Hurst. Introducing the new General School of Australian Diplomacy Philosophy. If you disagree while you're having breakfast, consider the consequences. Quietly pouring the muesli into the plate, General Electric. Quietly sticking the t-shirt in the middle of the drainer, General Westinghouse. Quietly considering the confusion that reigns on the front pages of the newspaper every day and every night. General inconsequentiality and general miscomprehension. Ha ha. I tell you, if I say it, I would have said it without. The worst generals of all. When the generals talk, you better listen to him. When the generals talk, you better do what he say. When the generals talk, you better listen to him. When the generals talk, you better do what he say. When the generals talk, you better listen to him. When the generals talk, you better do what he say. When the generals talk, when the generals talk, when the generals talk, you better listen to him.
All right, Mr. Garrett, I want you to tell us when you decided to go into show business. Show business?
We broke away from getting involved with agencies and record companies and everybody, and we just went to our audience. We looked at town halls instead of going through promoters. You know, we started to promote ourselves, putting the posters up ourselves. And you got, a couple of support bands that'll draw 200 people there and 300 people there, and you bring it together with your audience and you've got 1,000 people. All of a sudden the agents are going, well, how'd they get 1,000 people to that show? And so this whole alternative way of surviving and having an audience that wasn't a radio audience, wasn't a TV audience, wasn't a top 40 audience, wasn't a record company's audience. There's no promoters, what's going on here?
When do tickets go on sale there? Saturday? Are they on sale tomorrow? Yeah, Steve, Neil here, mate. Is Gary there?
Gary's already given a grand. Yeah. You're aware of that? And that's $2,100. Do it with just over the above. You want some just general float, petrol, taxis, etc. Well, no, 500. Are they going to be paid cash?
The regular catering's already been
Yeah,
cut by half, so then we made it up. Just good value for $300 for about 50 people.
This is an important 7 nights. The money's not going to...
2SM Sydney's Rock of the 80s with Charlie Fox talking to Rob Hurst from Midnight Oil about their new Oils album called Red Sails in the Sunset.
We're going down with the new songs on Melbourne People. We're then going to Adelaide and Perth, and we end up at the Hordern Pavilion. We've kept the price right down. It's about half, I think, what you're paying for some of the overseas acts.
That's hypocrisy, democracy, and ideology. That's the phrases.
I started in 1980. In those days, bands had to learn their craft the hard way. We were playing on milk crates with plywood on top sometimes. I do corporate now, and I go into rooms and clients will look at rooms saying, well, we've hit 300 people here, and I go, hey, I could fit 1,500 people in here and still make money on the door.
So excited, but you came and went so soon. Left us all angry and invited. You smiled at the way.
There was just this explosive energy coming off stage, and the room filled with that kind of tension and excitement and sweat and heat and sound, and you know, the bottom end, the kick drum would be thumping through your chest.
The heat levels in those pubs, particularly the ones with the low ceilings, with a couple of thousand people smoking, and it was like running 10 marathons all in the space of an hour and a half every night.
We blew the switchboard off the wall in the pub and took out the local substation. In those days, the ceilings used to drip with condensation above the audience. You know, everything was wet from sweat. The audience was wet with sweat. There was no air conditioning or anything. No one could breathe, and Constance, the little tour manager, was running around with an oxygen bowl, reviving people with oxygen.
It was always really important to this band to be able to deliver for the audience and just make it count.
We're about giving that audience everything that we had, everything that was happening on stage, we wanted to give to them in buckets.
I remember ice skating around Prince Alfred Park when we first moved from the country to the city, and they'd play the Beatles relentlessly, and then of course also the Stones and the Kinks and the Who and Freddie and the Dreamers and Dave Clark Five and all those British beat bands which influenced people of our generation so much, and then got absolutely fascinated by what was happening musically in the 60s. They actually wrote stuff about things. So if you had a great melody and you had great lyrics and you had a great beat, and then you also were talking about something really important to ordinary people's lives, then that was a killer combination.
I think it was quite scary sometimes, particularly with Jim in the corner, the roar, the rhythm and the drive. It wasn't rhythmic or timely, it was urgent. It was urgent and threatening. It was like, you know, it would make the hair, it was making the hair stand up on my things, thinking about it, you know, the power that we could create when we're in form.
And we're just doing covers and Rob was the singer all the way through school. And the school concert that we played at my school was hilarious because we did a lunchtime concert. And in the middle of the concert, the headmaster ran up on the stage and just turned all the amps off and then ran off. There was about 300 people in the hall going, what? You know, and that was just what we were dealing with. Like, we were just schmucks to these people. Like, you know, the people at the school that were really into rugby and they were really into sort of the military, and it was just sort of not a good place for a slightly sensitive and artistic person to be.
The day I was setting the gear up, the monitor engineer, Mark Edwards, said, I'll show you how everything gets set up, and I'll show you once, and that's it. You remember it after that. And I didn't care. I thought I'm only going to be here for a day. And as he was setting things up, I kept asking questions. I mean, why are you nailing the drum kit to the floor? Like, we had sandbags, and I'd done that before. And then he was tuning the monitors, and he put this small road case at the base of this really tall microphone stand. And I said, what the hell's the microphone so tall for? And he said, you'll see. And they didn't do a sound check that day. And sure enough, after the support act, they went on stage, and I saw all right, and the first song, they fucking destroyed it. The whole stage near caved in. I've never seen anything like it. Never.
The first encounter of the first kind was at the Narrabeen Antler. This tall bloke got our curiosity, sort of had long blonde hair, and there was a lot of energy on stage, and there was just a really interesting feel with the band. And I said, look, you know, if I can get some shows, just started looking for the rooms on the northern beaches that we could get them playing. You realise, wow, this is emotive. It's actually generating a lot of great ideas, and that will engage debate.
A call off the ultimatums could be stronger. You don't reckon? Nah. Should we just have one low or two low voices? If you do them though, I reckon they can be stronger for low. You want me not to sing the Justin? So I have been.
As I sort of, you know, reached back into the memory vault, I can remember a bunch of schoolboys sitting around, sort of, you know, frantic little guy, you know, sort of just out of school, banging away at the drums, you know, a couple of shy guys just out of school playing guitar. But it was what I heard, really, I think, that got me more than anything else. And that was really the key for me. And I've always said, you know, once I heard the kick of the bass drum and just heard the way that they played, I thought, you know, there's something very, very special going on here, and who knows where it will lead.
Be safe and nuclear free in 1985, and remember, we have a grave international problem on our hands. Something called idiot control the world. Oh, dearie me, Henry Kissinger is in South America. It sends the very shivers of all existence down my large spine. We're not waiting for any kind of poison to say that the food. We're waiting for Henry and Co. They've got short memories.
The empire rings. The empire's not laughing. The president's resented. Ambassadors, a nightclub. You cannot get it out. It's stuff you cannot taste or see. It's stuff you cannot smell. It's stuff that's 20 times as hot as the hottest stuff in hell.
My fellow Americans, I'm pleased to tell you today that I've signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes.
I've asked a special guest, Mr. Colonel David Hackworth, who now lives in Brisbane and Nimbin and has spent some time with the United States Army in Vietnam and Cambodia, to come along and speak. Would you put your hands together, please, for David Hackworth? Thank you.
Hello. Last night I was asked on a radio program why I was talking to you. And my answer was because you are what counts. Since 1945, there have been 23 examples where the U.S. military have recommended to use nuclear weapons. They've got so much firepower, it's like trying to kill a mosquito with a hand grenade.
All you have to do is see a photo of the victims of Hiroshima and you'll understand that it can never be allowed to happen again. And if everyone stands up and says, look, you know, we think it's very, very wrong and we're prepared to do something about it, then maybe we can change it.
The reason that we're here today is because we value the trees and the environment that we sit in. And we realise that this environment is put at great risk by the incredible proliferation of nuclear weapons in the world. As a response to that risk, ordinary Australians have gathered together and formed the Nuclear Disarmament Party. They approached me to stand as a Senate candidate, and I decided that I would accept their offer to stand as a candidate. This doesn't mean the end of Midnight Oil. Midnight Oil will continue. All it means is that I'm going that one stage further to talk about those things which have concerned me for a number of years, which I've tried to write songs about.
How will you be able to do anything different from people with principle within the ALP?
It's all very well for the left wing of the excuse me, Freudian slip. It's all very well for the left wing of the ALP to put that particular point of view. The fact is, in 1984, we have a pro-nuclear government.
Are you confident of success
Yes.
in the coming elections?
Yes.
Why?
Jean Meltzer in Victoria, who's been a serving senator, is our candidate in Victoria, and in discussions that I've managed to have with her over the last couple of weeks, she's indicated that there are lots and lots and lots and lots of very, very effective and fruitful ways that you can operate from the Senate. Operating from the Senate plugs us into the system.
Are you concerned that your personality and image will overshadow what your party's trying to say?
No, I'm not. Both the band and myself are people who have been prepared to stand on principle, and this is one particular principle which we have held to very firmly. I am now elevating this principle to the position I think it should take for every Australian, for everybody in the world, if we're going to see the decade out. We're simply saying the Nuclear Disarmament Party is here, the election campaign is on, and we are going to be successful.
I came into work on the Monday after the announcement on the Sunday night that Pete was going to be running for the NDP, and I could not believe the amount of messages. I just saw names from mainstream radio and TV and press who'd never bothered to contact the Oils before. Prior to that, we're just a band.
And he just came to our room and said, look, I'm going to do this, I'm going to run for politics. No talk about whether the band was going to survive or not. So when you have someone like that in your band, you have to, you know, what do? You just embrace it, really. I think that's what we did, rather than try and stamp it out, because, I mean, you couldn't. Why would you anyway? Like, it was all to do with who we were as people and what the band was talking about. He was just going to take it to the next level.
The launching of the Nuclear Disarmament Party represents the dawning of a new age in Australian politics. Heading the ticket, we have Peter Garrett, one of Australia's foremost musicians, and a man who for more than a decade has been fighting for peace, disarmament and social justice through his music.
It's been quite an extraordinary campaign, and it's quite an extraordinary political party. In fact, it's not really a political party, it's much more than that. It's a movement of people in this country who have decided that they really have had enough, that they want to make a nuclear-free Australia. And I must admit that there are times when it seems very chaotic for us. We're not operating out of the flashiest premises in the world. We don't have the biggest budget in the world, but we've got heart, we've got spirit, we've got hope, and we've got faith, and they're the most important qualities of all.
Around about the time of Pete's Senate campaign, we thought, well, we'll probably just continue playing in between when Pete's sitting in the Senate. I mean, I don't think any of us thought we were going to end. It's like, no, we'll work around what he's doing.
And we were very supportive of what Pete did. I mean, there was no one crying in their beer or anything. You know, we were all saying, well, that's the way it goes. We'd made plans. We knew what we were going to do if he made it. We effectively campaigned just by singing songs against nuclear issues.
Yours quickly. What's your name?
Mark.
Mark.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
No worries. There you go, mate. And remember, tell your mum and dad all about the nuclear disarmament.
Yeah, well, sure. My mum's here.
Is she?
Yeah.
Great.
So.
No, look, I really got to the point where
I think one of the reasons why Pete wanted me to get involved was that I understood about the band as well, and trying to fit the twin constraints of the political campaign and the tour from the band was actually really important. They needed to be kept quite separate. For a start, the band couldn't put out a single because they didn't want to be seen to be exploiting Pete's political campaign. The political campaign couldn't be seen as trying to be promoted on the back of the band's concerts.
The biggest difference from a crewing point of view was that the venues had to be searched every day. So we did a deal with the police. They weren't allowed to just turn up at any time, you know. Police made road crew very nervous. Because they searched everywhere. They searched under every seat. They searched the dressing rooms, the crew room, which we didn't want. And they searched the audience coming in too. That had never happened at a rock and roll show prior to those days. For 1984,
Our major ally plans to spend $1.6 trillion on weapons of war in the next 4 years. The re-election of President Reagan brings Australia's role and Australia's relationship with the United States into an even clearer focus. Our major ally plans to spend $1.6 trillion.
Midnight Oil, as we all know, are not ones to shy away from political issues, and that culminated last week in Peter Garrett's endorsement by the newly formed Nuclear Disarmament Party. On the musical front, Midnight Oil's new album, Red Sails in the Sunset, is in the shops this week. Their last album, 10 to 1 incidentally, is still number 51 on the album charts and has been in the top 100 now for nearly 2 years.
What I'm doing at the moment, apart from being on stage with the Oils, is getting around and talking to as many schools as I can. We're involved in a historic time. 1984 is a time of history, which I invite you to be involved in. I don't think that politics means being old enough to vote. I don't think politics means being interested in the difference between capitalism and socialism. I think politics means understanding that you can change the way society affects you. And you can change it, it doesn't matter how old you are, you just have to go out and get into it. None of this stuff is going to come easy. It's not easy for me to get up early in the morning and go out and get on the road for it, but I believe strongly in it. The question is, if I win the election, what will happen to the Oils? And the answer is that I'll become a Nuclear Disarmament Party senator, and Midnight Oil will continue to do what it's done in its way. Midnight Oil's been going since 1977. It's never been a band that's seen itself up on the top 40 charts. It's never seen itself as a band which is, you know, like a pop band, a Duran Duran or one of these people.
It's important, I think, to be on the street or to be where people are. And a lot of young people who were interested in us as a band were actually at school. I mean, schools are really important places, you know. This is where kids are learning, obviously, but it's also in the later years where they're developing their thinking and starting to form up their political values and their social values.
All those in favour, would you please raise your right arm? All those against? I now declare by a unanimous decision Manly High a nuclear-free zone.
I think people felt like their band was suddenly very important. I think they saw the band taking a stand in a very public way and felt quite proud of them. It was almost like a chance for the audience to grow up and see that their concerns were important as well.
This is historic, let me tell you, girls and boys. We are making history and we will continue to do it. We were approached to do a Street Kids Open House Foundation concert. Prior to my involvement with the Nuclear Disarmament Party, there was no way, because an election started, that we were going to detract from that.
Now can we get on to this?
No, I'd like to do this.
All right.
Okay, there are going to be other questions about the Street Kids. Look, I'm here to do the Open Family Foundation press launch, and that's really what I want to do. And I don't want to have a token question about it and then launch into Mr. Hayden.
We've only got a short amount of time.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, so despite the constant attacks from Mr. Hawke and most other people, you're not going to speak out on any other issues?
The fact that Mr. Hawke, Mr. Bjelke-Petersen, Mr. Hayden, Senator Carrick, Mr. Howard, Mr. Wentworth, who claims that the communists are still under the bed of the Nuclear Disarmament Party, are joining together to attack us, simply shows how effective we're being, how we've got those politicians running. They're scared of the votes. We're concerned about the issue.
A redhead, that's the call it hard on. Sometimes when the mirror shows, smile of disbelief, strange signatures of nightmares, stolen by the thief. Oh yeah. I'm back on the floor.
Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the tent. You know, every time the Midnight Oil gets up, here it seems like they've built another one of those things that screech up to the top of the sky and cast their imposing shadow over the sunny, sandy terrain. If you're not careful, it's going to get so if you're having a surf at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it'll be like surfing in the Grand Canyon or something, except that instead of walls of brown shale, it's going to be walls of cheap, wait till everyone's bought up their timeshare resort, it'll fall down in 20 years' time, home units.
I don't think when people came along at that stage to a gig, they'd expect someone like that to kind of have a microphone and talk. Because usually it was like, yeah, we're going to go into our next song and here's our latest single and I wrote this about my girlfriend or something. I mean, our stuff was much more angular and much more angry.
You're watching people fighting. You're watching people losing on Armistice Day. You're watching people fighting. You're watching people losing on Armistice Day. The watchers do the wincing, reporters so convincing, the TV never lied. I went looking for a war, and the only guns I saw never used in anger. You're watching people fighting, you're watching people losing on Armistice Day. The watchers do the wincing, reporters so convincing, the TV never lies, never lies. I went looking for a war, and the only guns I saw never used in anger. Fictions do the fiction, the locals do the lynching. Never enough.
His voice was an instrument. His voice was something that just meshed with the band's sound, and it became a wail. He was the social commentator on stage. And I guess that sort of process of people knowing they're going to go out, they're going to see something spontaneous, they're going to see something that reflects their basic attitude that they can't put their finger on, you know, what's going on around us.
People were seeing themselves within the music and the lyrics of the band. They wrote about their world, their country, and how they related to it and what they thought of it.
We were happy for people to learn about us, but also about Australia generally, about, you know, political, social, environmental situation that we faced.
I've seen faces in the window, I've seen faces in the street. They talk and walk of nothing, out-talked by the mass media. All right, let's calm down a bit here. Boys and girls, anyone who pushes and carries on down there, you'll get thrown out immediately, all right, son? Whammy, give me a spot down the front here, stage left, just at the front. Please, a little bit further. Now, boys, it cost midnight all a fortune in security guards to come into this place. I don't want you lot destroying it for us and for everyone else, all right? And the next person I see facing the other way, trying to cause some aggravation, I'll throw him out myself. I can't dig this mentality. We got the fattest, richest, stupidest people in the whole world, Russia and America, that want to blast us to smithereens. Everyone knows that life is a precious commodity, and you two want to kick each other's heads in.
It was a weird thing, you know. I sort of look into the crowd and be able to tell, you know, which quarter something would come from. I think, oh, hang on, there's a bit of evil lurking over in that corner.
As you're going to behave for me tonight, aren't you? Yeah, all right. All right. Thank you, boys and girls. We shall have a good time.
I always wanted a Midnight Oil concert to be, or a performance to be somewhere where everybody could come and feel that they could be themselves.
And generally they would listen to him. But if they didn't or they were fighting, he would send me in there, you know, knee-high to a grasshopper, to diplomatically sort it out. And every now and then he'd come in and rescue me because he'd see me into shit that was just going to turn to shit. But I could go through that audience and they'll pack together like in these venues like sardines. I could rush through that audience, anywhere through it from front to back. They would get out of the way, they would assist me getting through there to do what I had to do. It was aggression, But it wasn't aggression like you talk about nowadays. It wasn't fighting aggression. It was passion. A lot of performers on stage would be more than reticent to get up and make a dick of themselves like he did. You know, and he knows what I mean about that. You can't call that dancing. No one's ever seen that style of dancing before. Mate, they just stare at him. Because I had to keep checking that first 4 or 5 rows. They just stared. And it wasn't because he was good looking. It wasn't because he had the body of Adonis. No. That was the dancing. It was like he was on the dance floor with them, do you know what I mean? And because, yeah, he held him in the palm of his hand.
Got no time. He said to follow your natural instinct. Easy to follow, not too hard to learn. Find opportunity, find the child. Wasted passion, wasted mind. Some kids got no time for playtime. Some kids got no time for games. Some kids got no time for playtime. Some kids got no time for games. Some kids got no time for playtime. Some kids got
Mount Druitt. Up from Mount Druitt. I've been Oils fans for 7 years. We know they're talking about nuclear disarmament and how one day it's going to affect us all. Peter Garrett's going to be the next president, not Prime Minister, president.
He can get everyone listen to him because he's cool and he cares about
He
peace
does.
on earth.
He
doesn't
cares about our country and everything. This concert has been one of the best concerts there is.
I'm 19.
20. Right.
There was a dialogue between the audience and the band, and we realised that writing about Australian subjects would work.
Pushed out that front door model, I'll make it through the big yard. And leave it as a better wreck for catch to sneak in. Then I'll stop the small talk, then I'll stop the games. Show them that the man got made around. What's wrong? I'm just fucked up this way. Make a hand in it all your mind, one and only.
The band could communicate through its songs and the power of its instruments and everything. And then on top of that, you've got Pete communicating in a brilliant and diverse, and might I say, initially outrageous way. One-on-one, initially with pub crowds of 1,000, 1,500, but then to festival crowds of 60,000. It was such a gift.
Faces around
I thought the audience were fantastic in that era because they were excited about what was happening both to the band and also to the band's singer. And they listened to the music and then they went out and, listened to the campaign and they became a part of it. And some of them would have had very high hopes and others would have just been doing it for fun and everything in between. But that didn't matter, It was a really unique and quite powerful collective experience that we shared. And I'm really proud of the way in which people became active players, if you like, in the concert in that period of political engagement, because it showed that they were thinking about what we were singing about, but it also showed that they understood the spirit in which it was being done.
I'm not going to talk about the serious things of the world like politics, except to say that I hope that you all, those of you that came along and witnessed the Stop the Drop concert, understood what was going on.
He was very excited by the idea of being involved in politics, And he was on top of the world. He was like alive and effusive and, that's part of who he was going to be,
From the public's point of view, they never really behaved like pop stars. Because they didn't do drugs, they didn't drink, and they didn't whore around. Now, you don't have to cut any of that out, because that's all good stuff. The road crew had more fun than Midnight Oil did.
First around North Adelaide with Mr. Argyle. Get your running pants on there, boy. Get your running pants on there. You got any shorts? I can see the sort of running you're going to do. In the Ford Falcon.
Peter, at the beginning, was always a very imposing character, but I remember a conversation he had saying to all of us, look guys, I can't do this all on my own. You can't just stand there and play your guitar and, your fancy licks and stuff. You've got to come up and help me because I can't do it all on my own.
The first great Australian performer that I saw up close was JOK, Johnny O'Keefe. Someone who just screamed and put every ounce of energy into this take. And I remember being so knocked out by it. And I thought, fuck, that's a performer. That's the level you've got to give, to do this.
Long enough, they got nothing to say. Time up. Mother Night.
The speech is called We Live in a Nuclear Age, 1984. George Orwell is looking nervous. Actually, it's a pretty frightening thought, you know, if some Russian submarine person got a bit pissed and saw something coming across the radar and panicked, or if Mr. Reagan went sleepwalking and accidentally slipped on the button. I'm making light of it because we have to laugh about it a little bit, because unless we laugh about it, we don't see the humour in the position that we've got ourselves into. And okay, I'm getting older and I've had some success in rock and roll, but I think to myself, if we allow Russian generals or American generals or European politicians or international arms manufacturers or science and research people, if we allow them to determine what the future's going to be, then we're stuck with the consequences.
It's very easy now, sort of more than 30 years on, to forget what 1984 was like. You know, 1984 was... it was Big Brother. You know, people who'd read George Orwell knew that 1984 meant more than 1984. The cover of their album was apocalyptic. Their songs were apocalyptic. There were movies that were apocalyptic. People feared the consequences of the nuclear arms race, and they were powerless, and it wasn't really a political issue.
And even, it was a bit naive at the time, I guess. You know, we're only young fellows, talk about nuclear disarmament, but, you know, really when you look at it, it put the issue on the table for both political parties to the point where they had to actually have a look at this, because it did concern young people. We are generally not interested in having nuclear wars on our soil, or certainly being part of anybody's territory for that matter.
The life easily, you know.
A smallish man, Afghanistan, a watchdog in Afghanistan. They're only there to let the hand shot memory. Find a dusty smile, wake up and sweat to dead of night, and in the tents few rifles hang shot memory. Short memory must have a short memory. Short memory must have a short memory. The short memory must have a
An issue-hungry media has given Garrett immense exposure.
26 minutes to 7. And my guest in the studio is Pete Garrett from Midnight Oil and would-be Senator.
And that interest isn't confined to Australia. This was an interview for a Japanese television network, just one of several overseas media outlets interested in what the NDP has to say.
Australians need to understand that they have to get active. They need to understand if they want to have some say over what happens in the next 10 or 15 years, they've got to get out and get involved.
As Garrett threatens to upset the established political parties, it's not surprising that he's been attacked for being emotional, naive, and for being a rock star.
Do you think that because you're well known, that people will vote for you because it's a trendy thing and they know who you are, rather than the issue that you're standing for?
Everyone's vote's worthwhile, whatever reason they give it. It's the same as people coming to a Midnight Oil concert. I wanted my audience, who I knew felt strongly about the issue, even if they weren't articulate about it particularly, to have an opportunity to represent that feeling. I
remember a few mainstream media individuals who I guess were stars at that time having slight hissy fits like, do you know who I am? I want to speak to Peter Garrett. And in my head I'm going, well, you've never really wanted to speak to him before.
But it was a difficult time because the band wasn't the band anymore. Because Pete was going to be federal politics and wasn't able to say fuck anymore or anything like that, you know. So it was all a bit strange.
I guess in a way I was a little bit more, distant from it. I probably saw it all with a great deal of suspicion, really. I sort of, well, okay, Pete's doing this thing. There's all these people buzzing around him who are politicians and they've all got something to say about it. What I'll do, I'll stick to the music and as long as I can do that, that's my job in the band, I'll be okay, I mean, I didn't want to get into waters that were very unfamiliar to me.
This week, Garrett and his band Midnight Oil are performing 7 sell-out concerts at Sydney's Hordern Pavilion to no fewer than 50,000 fans. And everyone we spoke to said they would vote for the NDP.
He'd be a good politician if he got into it, I reckon.
Will you be voting for him? Yes.
I'd vote for any Nuclear Disarmament Party, whether it was Peter Garrett or not. I just don't like nuclear weapons at all.
It's good that someone's finally standing up for it.
Do you think it's just a young people's issue?
Definitely not. It's everyone's issue. Our lives are at stake.
So what sort of a politician do you think he'll make?
Very good politician.
Are all your friends voting for him?
Yeah, I reckon. I've even talked my grandmother into it.
You're not going to get a song today, but that's because I've spent the last 2.5 weeks talking to television and radio all the time. But I think it's a good idea for a surf club and SIS to get together, and for those people who haven't had the opportunity to get work yet, they've got to start thinking for themselves and working through.
I seem to remember Pete rushing into rehearsals and interviews and whatever, you know, with a huge folder of stuff under his arm and doing what he had to do and then rushing out again. I think the band was kind of worried at the pace he was going.
I mean, he was up in the morning on Sunrise or whatever show it was in those days. He was out there spruiking the NDP message, and then he'd come in at night and play this cathartic rock show and somehow be the one in the band who did the most work and run around the most and be in a catatonic state at the end of the night, and then he'd get up and do it all again.
I can't get lost, I can't get confused, something's misplaced, maybe for good. I can't get lost, I can't get confused, something's misplaced, maybe for good.
There was a lot of pressure within the band, on the band, and also we were playing at a peak, we were experimenting, we were using harmonies more than we ever had. The music was complex, we brought in a lot of brass. Jim was going from guitar to keys and back again. There was a lot of energy, but also quite a lot of anxiety in the camp about how things would work out.
I was trying to think through what would happen if I did win. How would we manage, the business of having a career with a band, and what would it mean for family life and so on.
Any more tea?
Ultimately, what Pete did impacted on the band, impacted on their careers, impacted on the album, impacted on the tour.
Pete wasn't so much hanging out with the band anymore. I think he was sort of starting to... Maybe he was questioning the whole thing about being a musician and wanting to do more.
It's not just the kids, nor is it just the women. It's right across the community, right across the factions. From working from the outside and showing how strong the move is for an anti-nuclear Australia, then we can really hurt them in the only area they care about, their power.
Have you been able to use the Midnight Oil to do a bit of electioneering?
I'm not confusing the two things. I am a full-time person working for a Nuclear Free Australia, and I'll do that in whatever way I can. If it means being a senator, then I will be a full-time senator. And
soon we realised the kind of spin that politicians and some journalists would put on the situation. But if they'd done their homework, they would have realised that this was a band that was talking political songs from the very first one. On the first album, Powderworks, was clearly on the same topic. That is, the dangers of nukes and whatever. 84, 85, we didn't suddenly jump into another boat and start swimming a different way upstream.
Everybody expected it to crash and burn and us not to be able to run a campaign at the same time. And then once the public opinion poll showed that people were supportive, then they started to take it a little bit more seriously. But we were under attack the whole time.
I think it's possible that Peter Garrett will be elected as well as me. Being a senator in the balance of power situation is a full-time job, believe you me. And I would like to see an undertaking from Peter Garrett here and now, that if he's elected to the Senate, he will resign, he will leave Midnight Oil, he will drop his previous career, and he will devote himself full-time to the job of being a senator. Now, if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't front with the people to that extent, then I think he should withdraw his nomination now.
North of Dalmore Downs, shamans' tents roll into town. "12 will face the auctioneer. Shamans' boxes stand their ground. Days are darker than your nights, but they won't be the first of all. They keep coming back for more. It's so sore. Good. Yeah, it's good.
Everything in the world could be going wrong, you know. I mean, your lead singer could be going into politics, but you'd have this thing, you know, where it was your thing and you really loved it. And I still love playing with Rob and Martin. Once we all get in a room, it's just this thing that starts, and it's just like a beautiful thing. Because we just love the feeling of playing together. It's a very special thing. It's like family. It just feels like family to me.
I was well supported by the band and well supported by my wife and family and my mates. You know, that meant such a great deal to me to know that people were supporting what we were doing and what I was doing. I just had to get myself there, you know, I had to get onto that stage. And on some nights after a long day's campaigning, it was actually great fun, you know, because it was such a relief, and the energy of the crowd and the band was fantastic.
In a more exciting election, Garrett and his colleagues could have got lost in the wash. Instead, they could create history, and a generation removed from politics looks set to be reawakened.
No conversation as you go now. There's so much space that he moves you. Caracara home. Backyard barbecue and you look the smell is fine on the clothesline. Fast food, slow life, red roof. My silence. Comic interruption. Shot in there somebody with a French on state of world events with kingdom. Beats and beats a pound, another pound. Back in the media base, by I treat the back, another damn pound, I don't get there. That's not good, I smell it. I don't think I'm really well listen. Hey, man, down with it, man, I don't get out. It's a 10, it's a 9, it's an 8, it's a 7. When I'm locked in my room, I just wanna scream. And you know what they mean. One more day of eating and sleeping.
Across town, Mr Hawke chose to vote at Coburg State School in his electorate of Wills. But even in Hawke territory, there was the Nuclear Disarmament Party.
The Nuclear Disarmament Party was polling something like 7.7% of the vote. So that's some sort of a pointer to what we might expect to see in the Senate later on.
Yes. When the campaigning began, some members of the Liberal Party believed that they had an outside chance of gaining a Senate majority. But that hope seems to have evaporated somewhat with the arrival on the scene of the NDP.
The NDP was formed 5 months ago and still appears as a loose coalition of anti-nuclear groups who've consistently demonstrated against the mining of uranium and the existence of foreign defence bases in Australia. Certainly the government was worried enough during the campaign about the slip of support to the NDP to push a strong line that a vote for Garrett or Meltzer was a wasted vote.
Let's cross over now to Geraldine and our politicians panel.
I'm going to ask Senator Gareth Evans, whom I know has been watching the Senate poll, obviously, with great interest indeed, whether you really do think that Peter Garrett can score, as we've been assessing here in the panel, an extraordinary number of primary votes to actually get up.
Well, it's certainly looking that way, Geraldine. Again, we haven't seen any Senate figures come up, but on the opinion polls...
I was announced at one stage as having won the seat. Channel 10 announced we'd won the seat.
The decision-making process took such a long time, in which there were various moments where we thought maybe he would get in and other times where we went, no, he probably won't get in, that in the end it didn't really matter. We were prepared for both outcomes.
And it was an interesting feeling because we didn't really know the result until the new year, and things started to go back to normal. We're in Australia, we've had an election, let's get on with life.
A song for Christmas. What's that? Oh, I've got it. Santa voted for the NDP, did he? Okay.
There was a little bit of unease about, well, what is next, you know? What is going to be the outcome, you know, if Pete gets in?
You see, the band was prepared to lose everything. They were as one in terms of the issue.
I mean, my view was I wouldn't stop making music. But I wasn't quite sure how I'd keep making it.
Life isn't all depressing in politics. There are times when you've just got to dance. Keep on wasting away in paradise, going backwards. Once in a while, moving on till falling behind. What do you believe? What do you believe? What do you believe is true? Nothing they say makes a difference this way. Nothing they say will do. You take all the trouble that you can afford. At least you don't have time to be bored.
Now, when we came to the election, the Liberal Party gave their preferences to the Labor Party, and the Labor Party gave their preferences to the Liberals as a way of keeping Pete and the Nuclear Disarmament Party out of power.
And then at the end of it, I remember going, how did he end up losing it? But there was also a feeling of relief. And I'm really, sorry for Pete. But the other side of me, the music fan side of me, was like, phew, good, we can continue on.
That was Pete's first venture into the political sort of arena. I think he was glad that he didn't win it, and we were all pretty relieved when he failed. He didn't actually fail, but as far as to get the seat, yeah.
Pete didn't really want to be a senator. The issue was the most important thing for him. He really wanted to see the issue on the front pages, which we achieved fantastically. I think it would have been terrible if he'd gone to Canberra as a senator. But I think what he did by having a red-hot go at it was achieve exactly what he and everyone else in the nuclear disarmament movement really wanted, which was to make the issue addressed and taken more seriously.
Like the Pied Piper, Mr Hawke led the children into a Parliament House committee room. There was undoubtedly one common thread running through the questions.
Why do you continue mining uranium when we know it's used for nuclear bombs? If there was a nuclear war, what would happen to Australia and yourself? Do you have a nuclear fallout shelter?
Mr Hawke, you sell uranium overseas, so how can you be sure that it will be used in the manner that you want it to be used?
Mr Hawke told them about nuclear safeguards and about Australia's efforts on nuclear disarmament. Mr Hawke had his problems when he arrived for talks with Secretary of State George Shultz, cooperate with the testing of the MX missile and be damned by his own party, or refuse and face criticism for letting down a major ally.
A decision has been made by the US to conduct the MS tests without the
use of Australian support arrangements.
We, as a government, and the people of Australia have played a part in the maintenance of systems to ensure a world which is not threatened with the nuclear holocaust.
The Prime Minister said Australia's cooperation with the United States did not entail endorsement of the controversial Star Wars weapon system. He asked for and received an assurance that the joint facilities in Australia would not be used for anti-satellite systems.
We're sort of coming up into 1988. We've just come out of the 1970s of the referendum for giving Aboriginals their right to vote. And so you've got this sort of bookending kind of period where the oils emerged, and out of that came this kind of music dynamic doing the whole Western Desert and Top End.
I think it gave a bigger perspective to what the band was doing, experiencing what so many people in Australia will never experience firsthand.
That song opened up a whole new way of approaching our sound, and we gradually started to write songs with space, started to see the band in a different light.
I can still remember a night at the Zenith in France. They started Beds of Burning, which got a very distinctive beginning. The French audience just took over Beds of Burning and sang the whole song. The band stopped singing. But it was perfect, it was clear, the clarity was perfect, and you couldn't help but be moved. I can still remember the feeling. I get a little bit tingly now thinking about it, just the memory thing there. Jumping up and down, singing the words about Australia, written by Australians. It was a proud moment.
Well, when the band finished, it was a bit of a shock. It was a struggle in some ways to adjust to the real world. Because I think being in a band, it's like a bit like adolescence or childhood. When the band ends, that's when you actually have to grow up. Because people are telling you where to go, they're giving you the passports, they're giving you the food, the hotel. But after that ends, you have to kind of figure it out for yourself. And, I've actually enjoyed the band, but I enjoyed not having the band too.
For me, at least, there was a sense that we would go around in circles if at least I didn't break out and do something else. And I think everybody had thought about it at one point or another, but I was the one that went.
I understood the need for breaks because I think that's actually why we survived for all that time, was we did take breaks for each other. So why not take a longer break? Why do we have to call quit the whole thing quits? So I didn't get it. Because I didn't feel that the band was ready to say goodbye to anyone, including each other.
gonna wait for the moment to come. I'm gonna wait till we all stop from running, boxed in like candles, polar bear pride. Turn into terrors, the script is read out. Unwilling actors, accomplished protractors will shout. I'm gonna wait till I reach for the sky. Tin legs and tin minds, anyone's cry. Cry in the hope that there'll be tomorrow. Waiting around, there must be a sound. Time to start thinking and working it out. Come with me now, try with me now when I'm back. Till they knock on my door. I'm gonna wait till they dig up the floor of boards. Poland in Disneyland, wet dream control. Supercomputer, the new contraband. I'm gonna wait and I must make a stand. Come with me now, try with me now one more time.